Pleasure of sitting down with former State Representative Mike Wilson. He did arguments in front of the Arkansas Supreme Court on general improvement funds today. When he got done, he called the program, and it sounded like this.
All right, folks, please welcome back to the program. We have former State Representative Mike Wilson is with us, and we were telling you about this earlier in the week. Today is Thursday. Today, there were arguments in front of the Arkansas Supreme Court about general improvement funding. Former State Representative Wilson, what can you tell us about what went on in the courtroom today?
Well, today the court heard oral arguments, paper briefs that had already been submitted to the court. The court heard oral arguments, fleshing out to some degree the written briefs in this case, which is an appeal from Pulaski County Circuit Court concerning the constitutionality of certain appropriation measures made to the planning and development districts across the state. This case concerned several appropriation acts to appropriating state money to Central Arkansas Planning and Development District, and that's what this case concerned today.
Just tell us where we stand right now on this. I mean, I've read some of the briefs, that are out there on this, and you make a compelling argument. You mentioned the 14th Amendment of the Arkansas Constitution, and I mean, you believe that if we're going to fund like a rural fire department, then the full body of the General Assembly needs to appropriate that and not give it to a planning and development district.
Right. The transfers to the planning and development district allow, by their internal deliberations, they allow individual legislators to direct where the funds actually go. So, for example, legislator Joe Smith may decide that the fire department and part of his district needs state money, but and direct that money to go there, and a different fire department in the other part of his district receives nothing. Those directions and control by individual legislators violate Amendment 14 of our Constitution, which prohibits local and special acts, so that the direction of state funds by one person to any sort of charitable organization is and should be prohibited. That's the basis of my suit.
So let's talk about the past. You've already, you already did this once and you won.
Yeah.
And
right.
They essentially said, okay, in order to get around the court ruling that said we can't give this taxpayer money to individual legislators and have them go and get the credit, and I think it's just a slush fund for re-election to buy votes, essentially. We can no longer do that. So instead, we will, these are my words, essentially launder the money through the planning and development districts, and somehow we will...
The maintenance of a free society is a very difficult and complicated thing, and it requires a self-denying ordinance of the most extreme kind. It requires a willingness to put up with temporary evils on the basis of the subtle and sophisticated understanding that if you step in to do something about them, you not only may make them worse, but you will spread your tentacles and get bad results elsewhere.
I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers. We lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
You're listening to The Paul Harrell Program. Brought to you by Conduit Media Group.
Hey, folks, happy Monday. Thanks so much for being with us. My name is Paul. You have found the intersection of conservative ideas and reality where we are building a liberty machine. And we want you to be a part of that. One of the ways you can do that is to call us or text us, 870-275-9799. There's another way that we're going to get to here in a little bit. All right. Again, that phone number, 870-275-9799. Wow. Did anybody see the report that the FBI has secret recordings of former Senator John Woods conversing with Mike and Neil about their money laundering scheme to take kickbacks with taxpayer money and, funnel it through this school or this healthcare entity through a consulting firm back to them? Did anybody see that story? Gosh, that was interesting. There are recorded phone calls between he and Mike and Neil. And that I'll get to the whiteboard here in a minute about that, but because you got to know a few things about John Woods and really hit the brain trust of one organization in particular that's kind of silent right now. So the headline was by Ron Wood, a judge will allow tapes of John Woods talking about Grant's scheme. And boy, do I like the fact that the media is using the word scheme now, because that is clearly what it is. Now, John Woods has been indicted. Former State Representative Mike Neal has pled guilty. And assuming, I guess it's fascinating here. So apparently what happened is Mike and Neil decided to record the conversations between he and John Woods about this scheme without the FBI urging him to do so, or without prosecutors urging him to do so, that he did it on his own volition. Now, that's not what John Woods is saying. John Woods' attorneys are saying, no, there's some sort of ethical violation here. This was the motion. Woods asked in a motion filed under seal for a hearing on the secret recordings. I am not a crook. The motion sought to keep prosecutors from using the recordings at his trial. U.S. District Judge Tim Brooks denied the motion on Friday. Woods contended the calls were recorded between June 18th of 2016 and later that year by a defendant in a separate but related case and at the government's direction. The person was Neil, Micah Neil, according to court documents filed on Friday. Woods argued the recordings violated his constitutional right to counsel because investigators knew he was represented by an attorney at the time. Prosecutors agreed the recordings were made, but denied Neil was coordinating with them or under their direction. They also maintained there would have been nothing illegal or improper about coordinating with or directing the recording activities because adversary judicial criminal proceedings hadn't begun against Woods at the time the recordings were made. So the prosecution says, look, we didn't tell Mike and Neil to make those recordings, but if we had, we still would have been doing anything wrong, whether you had an attorney or not. Now, and here's the thing about John Woods and his attorney. Let me just tell you this. Everybody down at the Marble Palace knew that this was coming at one point or another. Everybody knew that the key player in carving out a financial niche for yourself was Senator John Woods. Everybody knew it. So many people knew it. It's, before there was any sort of whisper of criminal proceedings or FBI or whatever, pretty sure he knew this was where this was going a lot longer than anybody else did. Probably contacted an attorney, and here we are today. I mean, this is interesting, to say the least. Let's see, what else do we have in this story? How many calls were there? Let's see. The Gazette reports. Let's see. According to the motion, Woods told investigators he was involved in a kickback scheme involving general improvement money, and Paris had full knowledge. Was an active participant. Quote, through discovery, however, counsel for Dr. Paris has become aware of the true nature of the transaction that varies substantially from the scene taken at face value. I guess the scene there would be the recordings, audio recordings. Quote, in an audio recording made of a subsequent conversation between John Woods and Arkansas State Representative Micah Neal by Mr. Neal, Mr. Woods discussed the somewhat less than harmonious circumstances under which he gave his November 11, 2015 testimony to the government. Okay, that's interesting. So John Woods, Arkansas Representative Micah Neal, by Mr. Neal, discussed the somewhat less than harmonious circumstances which he gave. So this is John Woods. This is a recording of John Woods and Micah Neal, and Mr. Woods discussed how he gave his testimony to the government. So let me get this straight. So you're saying that John Woods, former senator, chose not to run for re-election because obviously he knew this was kind of the end. He gets interviewed by the government and then immediately calls Micah Neal to talk about how he was interviewed by the government, the FBI. Woods, in a recorded call, told Neal his attorney, W.H. Taylor, repeatedly berated him to tell the truth during the interview. The motion goes on to contend Woods was coerced to implicate Paris by federal investigators and Taylor. It questions whether Taylor had a conflict of interest because he also represented an FBI agent who was likely present during the interview in a civil matter. Motion contends Woods' coerced statements. The motion also argues the government knew in advance Neal was going to record his conversation. Of course, we've already talked about that. Man, is this not incredible? So, I really would love a copy of those tapes. I think it would make for some very interesting radio, probably the most interesting Arkansas-focused radio we've ever done. Presumably, these are going to be allowed. The judge is now saying that they will be allowed to be used in the court, in the criminal proceedings. They will be allowed to be used, in front of a jury that's going to make a decision here based on what John Woods thought was a private conversation between his confidant, State Representative Micah Neal, who, again, pled guilty to taking $38,000 in your money for his own personal use in a scheme that involved money laundering, wire fraud, things like that. And let's see here. What else do we have? Yeah, so it's crazy. So let me digress here. Let me back up now. So our whiteboard today, Joe, says Con, Arkansas. Now, I don't think you were here, Joe, when the last time that we did this. I guess we have had this whiteboard before, okay? Con, Arkansas. I don't remember when it was, but I know what it was about, okay? It was specifically about an organization, okay, called Conservative Arkansas, which they're a, political organization. I don't know, one of the 501s. I can't remember. But it doesn't really matter. They essentially, will run ads or whatever, and they go under this name, Conservative Arkansas. And here's the thing. They're not conservatives. Matter of fact, Conservative Arkansas is the brain trust of now indicted Senator John Woods. And ever since he's been indicted, and really probably for about the last year before John Woods has been indicted, you really haven't heard much from this Northwest Arkansas organization. Again, John Woods from Northwest Arkansas, a brain trust called Conservative Arkansas. Now, it actually is a really good name because, it would be a good name if it were actually a conservative organization. But when and so they do things like endorse liberal candidates or progressive candidates like John Woods, or like John Burris, who lost to Scott Flippo. This is that organization. This is what their history is. And so a liberal progressive candidate can go out there and they can say things like, I have the endorsement of Conservative Arkansas or whatever, and people will say, oh, that must be a conservative organization. Well, you got to look at their track record, okay? You got to look at their track record. And of course, you got to also remember, and we did do this, we covered this, the director of Conservative Arkansas is the mother of State Representative Janet De La Rosa. Her name is Patsy Wooten, and she actually was so worried about Janet De La Rosa losing to former State Representative Randy Alexander last year, a couple of years ago in the primary, that she followed him around and called the Rogers Police Department on him while he was putting up campaign signs she was claiming were basically too close in the vicinity of where State Representative Janet De La Rosa. This is a flashback. We covered this. Matter of fact, we got the 911 call when she called the police, and we played it, and it was, pretty hilarious. Pretty hilarious. But anyway, State Representative Janet De La Rosa, she actually did go on to win against Representative Randy Alexander, and I believe she even came on the program during the session and interviewed about this bill or that bill. Let me digress again. I just haven't really heard much from Conservative Arkansas since this whole John Woods. The brain trust of John Woods is really Conservative Arkansas. It was this clique, if you will. And I just want to ask, where is Conservative Arkansas now that their brain trust John Woods is going to jail? Has anyone heard from them, right? Anybody at all? Here's the thing. This whiteboard, what you don't understand is our whiteboard for the week, Con Arkansas, which has been an affectionate nickname that I have used before when describing the supposed conservative group, Conservative Arkansas. That's not we're not actually recycling. We're not actually recycling a whiteboard, even though we've used this one before, because this one to me has a different meaning. Do you know what you call a person who is convicted of a crime? A convict. The short slang for that is con. And you know how I've joked before, hey, look, we're going to have so many people on Medicaid in the state. We already have a third of our population on Medicaid thanks to the big government dreams of Republicans, a small minority of them, and Democrats. So should we change the name of our state license plate slogan from the natural state to the Medicaid state or the welfare state, right? So if we end up having, because if you hear things, the FBI has this stuff locked down. If you go read that FBI affidavit against Jake Files, you'll know. This stuff is locked down. They're being very specific and the information that they have, because the perception out there is it is harder to prosecute somebody for criminal crime when you are a public official. That's the perception. It shouldn't be, but that's what it is. So the FBI is taking this, they're being very careful about this because I know they want to make sure they get convictions. But is that going to be the nickname of our state in general? How many former elected officials, how many lobbyists, or how many sitting elected officials are going to get pinched, are going to get charged with a crime here? Will it be so many that the nickname for our state will now just be Con Arkansas? Con Arkansas. Because there might have been a ton of decisions. I want you to realize this. There might have been a lot of decisions and votes made by people that have drastically affected how much we can go into debt, what our tax policy is going to be. And these people that are making the decisions and controlling the issues, setting the laws we all have to live under, many of them may very well end up as convicts. And I think we need to start realizing that that's the state of things, and that's where we might be. I told you there's one way to help us. You can call or text us. If you want to build the Liberty Machine, there's also another way that you can help us. The Paul Harrell program has now launched Patreon, which is on our Facebook page. You can go there right now. It's patreon.com/thephp. Now, I know some of our younger listeners, you guys already know what this is. This is a way for you guys to help us. Not everybody out there has a business. Not everybody out there wants to advertise. But if you want extra PHP content, if you want extra Paul Harrell program content, we're going to give it to you for monthly contributions. We've got 3 levels, $5, $10, and $25 a month. For $5 a month, folks, and this is patreon.com/thephp. For $5 a month, you're going to get downloadable content, access to a message board community, and also access to an exclusive weekly bonus video from me, by the way, which we shoot tomorrow, right, Joe? And then for $10 a month, scroll down a little bit so I can see. Then for $10 a month, you're going to get everything you get for $5 a month. So the video, the message board, downloadable content. Then you also get to pick from a monthly list that we're going to send you. That's going to be very comprehensive of guests and topics, and you will get that's the producer level. You're going to get to produce the show and influence who comes on and what we talk about. And then the $25 a month, the Conduit Media Insider level, which you're going to get your very own Liberty Machine t-shirt. You're also going to get to meet me by invitation-only broadcast. As the funds make that available, we're going to have a whole event. It's going to be great. Food and everything else, live broadcast. So that's the Conduit Media Insider situation. Joe.
Also, I just found this out because one of our patrons. I didn't know this, but you can give money, so you can give something less than $5 if you so choose.
Yeah, you could just give like a buck, right?
Yeah, you can get, but the thing
won't
is,
get anything.
You won't get anything for it,
yeah.
But you can still help the show.
Yeah, yeah, and this is like here's the thing about this, and I know we got to go to break, but. Look, we're trying to educate the public. I mean, this is a massive undertaking if you know anything about Arkansas politics. We're trying to educate the public. And unfortunately, I mean, it costs money, unfortunately. And so we need you guys, if you see the value in this, if you're listening to stuff here that you don't get anywhere else, and I know that you are. I know you're listening, and I know you realize that there's value in this and that you're not getting this kind of Arkansas-focused information, then help us out. Patreon.com. That's patreon.com/thephp. Back in just a moment.
Buy, sell, and trade at Triple R Pawn in Ash Flat. Firearms, computers, sporting goods, musical instruments, tools, jewelry, and everything else you can think of. It's all at Triple R Pawn at the Light in Ash Flat. Gun enthusiasts, log on now to TripleRPawn.com and browse their amazing inventory. That's TripleRPawn.com. You can also call them at 870-994-PAWN. That's 870-994-7296. Let the great team at Triple R Pawn help you find what you're looking for. That's Triple R Pawn at the Light in Ash Flat, TripleRPawn.com, or call 870-994-PAWN.
In a world full of constituents with social media accounts, bloggers just looking to increase their page views, and a talk radio host who generally is just the worst, how are Little Rock's elite supposed to conduct business with such a lack of privacy? Introducing the 1835 Club, older and more refined than other clubs that claim discretion. The 1835 Club is for seasoned political veterans that want to conduct the highest form of aristocratic business with the public's money. Are you a schemer? Do you someday want a guaranteed flow of taxpayer money to support your business? Is it your dream to see the .gov domain at the end of your business website? Don't listen to the imitators. The 1835 Club is the place where corrupt politicians and businessmen hatch their next crony schemes. At the 1835 Club, we make lobbying safe and legal. Ethics. Why, of course. All business is done in an ethical manner. Just look for the sign above the door that reads, loophole. Are you tired of the Capitol Police restricting your access to the roof after a perfectly good night of drinking? The 1835 Club has libations and a perfectly good roof. Other crony clubs that promise discretion try to lure you in by advertising bars made out of aeroplanes. Well, at the 1835 Club, instead of an airplane fuselage, We've got a space shuttle. No, not a bar. We've got an actual space shuttle that makes a daily run to the moon so members of the 1835 Club can have some real privacy away from the bloggers and taxpayers. Are you an Arkansas aristocrat? Do you want to be? It's the 1835 Club, and we work tirelessly to make sure the good old boy system remains alive and well. Join today.
Disclaimer. The 1835 Club reserves the right to deny membership to anyone who has principles. Any talk of the Declaration of Independence or the Constitution must be done in jest or, at the very least, with a condescending tone. And finally, the 1835 Club will be given a 25% commission of any agreements made between politicians and the business community.
PHP Parody. Need to get something off your chest? Then call or text Paul now, 870-275-9799.
Coming up at the bottom of the hour, we'll be talking with the host of The View from Hillsdale, Mr. Richard Castor, the chairman of the Baxter County Republicans, will be joining us at the bottom of this hour. We're excited about that. Man, to me, it just seemed like a ton of news. The Confederate monuments, I want to say a little bit about that, maybe closer to 5, but Confederate monument debate in Arkansas is still alive. It's still happening, and this has all been predicted. And I hate to be the bearer of bad news. I mean, I hate to just tell you how bad, constantly tell you how bad the Republican Party is, but this Robert E. Lee separating the holiday from Martin Luther King was only the beginning. They're coming after the Democrats are now coming after the Civil War statues down at the Marble Palace, and they will eventually come after the star on the Arkansas flag that stands for the Confederacy. It's only a matter of time. And appeasement is not the answer here. Education is. Was it Paul Greenberg? Did I hear something? The idea of new history, and how that's an oxymoron, how that's a conflict that doesn't go together. New history is a real thing. Again, the telephone number, call us, text is 870-275-9799. You can follow me on Twitter at Paul Harrell 1776. I'm tagged on Twitter. Janet Crow writing unpleasant trip down memory lane about John Woods, Micah Neal, and Con, Arkansas. Hashtag ARLeg. Yes, it is unpleasant. But we do need to take a moment and at least be happy. Not that people are going to jail necessarily, not to rejoice in someone's tragedy, but certainly to take a moment to say it is good that something illegal was done to all of us, and there are consequences for it. We don't see that very often in our society today for people who are in higher office and it goes to their head and they think that they're better than us and can get away with anything. That was not the case here. Back in a minute.
Paul Harrell, weekdays from 4 to 6. Learn more at paulharrell.com.
Indirectly still be able to achieve the same thing, still be able to get positive press out of all of this. So let me ask you this, Mike Wilson.
Well, your understanding is exactly correct. It is a money laundering scheme or artifice that permits individuals to direct where taxpayers' money goes, and that's exactly what has happened as a result of the earlier cases from some years ago where the legislature directly transferred money. This is an indirect transfer utilizing the scheme of the development districts, which do what the legislator tells them to do. And that proof is in the record in this case, in this current case, over and over and over. So it's there. It's for the Supreme Court to decide whether that's proper.
If the Supreme Court sides with you, if they agree with you and your criticism of this, do you have any suspicion that the legislature will again try to come up with some way to undercut what this is?
Well, I certainly do. public exposure of this collusion to utilize the planning and development districts. Public exposure and publication will and has already resulted in stopping the improper transfers. For example, the governor, to his credit, made it known in this last session of the legislature, the 2017 session, that he did not want this sort of scheme followed. And the most recent session did not utilize that method anymore. Now, remembering that my suit began in 2015, it covered the previous General Assembly appropriations for that biennium, for that 2-year period. This last go-round, the governor made it clear that he did not like it. In addition, the recent developments in northwest Arkansas, which occurred after my suit was filed, the criminal indictments on the kickbacks and fraud, that has added fuel to the fire, although that's not my lawsuit. My lawsuit is a civil suit. The northwest Arkansas proceedings are criminal proceedings out of Fort Smith, I believe.
Yeah. You did mention the governor, though. And in doing that, I'm curious. You know, we're not doing GIF as we did it, but a lot of that funding is now going under the purview or the discretion of the governor.
Yes, the governor, under the most recent, the 2017 session, has the ability to direct or release funds for
Go back and listen to previous shows? Apple users can subscribe to our podcast on iTunes. Don't have an Apple device? Head on over to paulharrell.com and click on Podcast. It's free and available 24/7 because the Liberty Machine never sleeps.
All right, we're awaiting a phone call from Mr. Richard Castor, who's going to be coming on the show today. But he's a very busy man. I certainly know that. So as soon as we get Richard on the line, we will be yeah, there we go. Just making sure it was today. As soon as we get Richard on the line, we'll bring him to you. Conduit for Action, though, coming out with a new article that I'm going to start to cover right now. If you head on over there, just now popped, conduitforaction.org. No spending problem. Hang on, I've read that wrong. There's a question mark. No spending problem? Asa burns through millions picking higher bidder. In August, Governor Asa Hutchinson ordered the Department of Human Services to move forward to award a new contract for information technology services, despite the objections of a majority of the senators on the Arkansas Legislative Council. Asa pushed forward to award a huge contract to Deloitte Consulting, who bid $75.3 million over 3 years instead of the bid by the current contractor Northrop Grumman of $54.4 million. Now, we have previously covered this on the program, but if you heard it and you weren't able to conceptualize it properly to your friend, good news. Go to conduitforaction.org and, folks, spread this article out to all your friends so they get a grasp of what's going on here. This is going to make the average person that maybe doesn't understand the Marble Palace procurement process. Maybe you don't understand, but you can read the difference between $70 million and $54 million. And the basic principle would be you want to take the cheaper route. If it was your household, you would take the cheaper route. You would get the job done, not $42 million higher. Okay? So, and I can promise you this, they're not going to be delivering $42 million more in results. I can promise you that. That $42 million in extra services is going to end up being distributed back to some politicians in the form of campaign donations, back to some groups that will be able to give larger donations. That's what's going to happen here, mark my words. That's the dark money that we should really be worried about. Taxpayer money being used to prop up political campaigns. Why spend $20.9 million more to hire the highest bidder? Why do that? Yeah, okay, sorry, $20 million. Where did I get the $42 million more number? I thought that was what was reported in the Gazette article. I must have misread that, or I have that number in my head for some other reason. I'm gonna have to reconcile the two. Why spend $20 million more than the highest bidder? The supposed good reason for spending so much more was based on an arbitrary formula used by state employees. Can we throw the article up there, Joe, so people can see it? The formula used by governor's administration minimized the importance of cost by making cost only 20% of the contract evaluation. Now, think about that. I'm not saying in our individual households. Yeah, highlight the part on the 20%. Keep going, down. There you go. Highlight that. I'm not saying that in our households the cost is 100% of your choice. Because, yeah, sometimes there are variables here. But when we're talking about millions upon millions of dollars, I don't buy it at all. The cost of the project, the cost of the contract needs to be at least 60% of the evaluation process. Did you hear what I said? The cost should be at least 60% of the process. According to Jeffrey Dean, the Chief Information Officer of DHS, making cost only 20 to 25% of the evaluation is standard among states. Does that justify spending tens of millions more, or does it reflect an attitude on spending that has gotten so many other states into financial trouble? Do you hear yourself? Are there any politicians out there? You know, the sad thing is, there are politicians out there right now, state ones, they're listening to this show, or they're listening tomorrow morning because they get the podcast. We desperately need, in this state, leaders. Many of you are shaking your heads in agreement with me, but I just want you to know we need leaders more than we ever have in this state who are willing to do the hard things and willing to get down there and lead. And I know it's hard. I know you can get shut out. I know you can get blackballed. I understand. But surely there are ways to lead. And to stand up and to not take some of this stuff. I mean, the people need you. People don't need excuses. The people need you guys to lead. Right now, the people in leadership are progressive liberals who believe in government. They believe that government will solve our problems. And they are misguided. And they run on a platform that is contrary to what they actually believe. Let's summarize. Conduit for Action article, ACE's formula was used by ACE's state employees to spend $20.9 million more on the contract that ACE wanted. Keep going, Joe. Senator Jimmy Hickey, a Republican of Texarkana, who was described as the leading critic of the contract, objected to the procurement process. Quote, "I'm not going to be involved in voting for something like that," Hickey said. "This procurement process down here is flawed." Senator Alan Clark, friend of the show, Republican from Lonsdale, said, "What has come up here is we have a badly flawed system that didn't factor in cost enough in the bidding process." Let me get down to here. Ignoring Arkansas's financial condition, one might think a Republican governor would have been more cautious about spending. Not this governor. By minimizing the importance of the cost of the contract, ACE's administration also minimized the importance of Arkansas's current financial condition. The governor's budget is unsteady, and the governor is on a quest for more taxes to grow government. We'll have more on the flawed procurement process here in a minute. I'm told we're now joined by the chairman of the Baxter County Republican Party, Mr. Richard Castor, also radio host of The View from Hillsdale. Richard, welcome back, sir.
Thank you so much, Paul. Sorry I'm a little bit late. Was stuck with a customer.
Hey, I understand. That certainly takes priority. So tell us, Richard, there's a big Baxter County Republican Lincoln Day dinner coming up, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's our largest fundraiser of the year, and we're so honored this year to be joined by the chair of politics of the politics department of Hillsdale College. Dr. Mickey Craig is going to come here to Mountain Home, and he's going to talk about our Constitution, our founding fathers, and if people listen to talk radio, they listen to your program, they probably know about Hillsdale College. But if they don't know, it's one of the most conservative schools in the nation. It's the only school in America, the only college that accepts zero federal funding and zero state funding because they want to teach what's true, what's good, and what's beautiful. They want to focus on, rigorous academics, our founding fathers, and an idea that there is a truth and we can understand it. Mm-hmm. And to be able to do that, to be able to speak that truth, you have to get those government strings away. You have to get all those different requirements and all that nonsense out of the way. And Hillsdale College has been at the forefront of that. They've led this nation. They've opened up schools, K through 12 classical schools across America, because if we're going to save this country, we're going to save it by educating young people about what it means to be a true American and a good citizen. And so we're so excited to have Dr. Craig with us, and I'd like to invite all your listeners to be a part of this. It's going to be a great moment for conservatism in Arkansas, and they can find out more about it. It's September 30th, right here in Mountain Home. They can go to BaxterGOP.com and learn more about it. And we'd love to have it. Anyone who'd like to go, they can get in contact with me, and we'd love to see everyone. And what this money goes to, I also want to say, Paul, is it goes to the Republican Party of Baxter County. And we only have one Democrat left in Baxter County. So we're focused on reclaiming that seat. But beyond that, once we get done focusing on retention, we're going to look for conservative candidates across the state of Arkansas and funnel our money to those people who need it the most, who have an opportunity to win,
wow,
and who can really go down to Little Rock. I'm talking state Senate and state House seats, where we can go in and target these specific races and really flip them over to a true conservative candidate. Mm-hmm. So if you want to be a part of that, if you want to come hear Dr. Craig speak here in Mountain Home, BaxterGOP.com. There's a little PayPal button. Pay for your tickets. You'll get a personal email from me, and we'll either mail them to you or you can pick them up. And we'd love to have everybody. It's going to be a fun night, and I think a really big moment for conservatism in Arkansas that we as a Republican Party are standing on our traditional foundation of our founders, and then from there moving forward with a program to target great conservatives and get them elected across the state of Arkansas.
Yeah, and the website's great, too, BaxterGOP.com if you want tickets. And it's the 2017 Lincoln Day Dinner, bringing Hillsdale College to the Ozarks. The keynote speaker, Dr. Mickey Craig, September 30th, 6 p.m., Twin Lakes Baptist Church in Mountain Home. Tickets are $40. You can buy them, again, BaxterGOP.com. Now, Richard, my question to you, as a Hillsdale College graduate, did you ever have Dr. Mickey Craig in class? Did he ever teach anything to you?
Yeah, I did. He taught me a bunch of different classes, but also he was my senior thesis advisor, and it was a great honor to get to know him that way. So it should be a blast. And if you look up his bio, he's right here from Arkansas, started at ASU, and he vacationed in Mountain Home every summer. So it's a great welcoming home for him. It's a great moment to have him come down and to have his old community rally behind him, and his life's work, which is to educate young people about our founding, about the founding fathers. And I know so many people have taken the opportunity to take Hillsdale's free online courses on the Constitution, on our Western heritage, but this is a step even, further from that. This is having a one-on-one encounter with one of these professors. And I think it's an opportunity that not a lot of people are going to want to miss.
Yeah.
It should be a really fun night.
I'm really excited about it, and I'm making plans to be there again September 30th because I really think this is going to be something special and a lot of fun, and so I cannot wait to meet Dr. Craig, honestly, and to hear what he has to say and to meet everybody else. I know it's going to be a blast. So.
Absolutely, we've got politicians from across the state coming, and just really good, hardworking Americans. I know it's a little pricey, but we complain so much about what happens down in Little Rock. I just heard you talking about our governor and taxes and, the way the state is being governed. The only way that's ever going to change is if we as conservative Americans and conservative Arkansans step up at the end of the day, put our money where our mouths are, go to events like this, support the good causes, and get really great conservative candidates elected and just serve us at our pleasure in the state legislature. And I think moments like this is where that begins. And it's a little inconvenient, maybe. It's a little pricey, maybe. But is there anything else worthwhile, worthwhile than that? We have a big election coming up, and we'd just love to have this be a tremendous success. To have it be a rallying point, a beacon, to the whole state, that we're going to start taking our party back, we're going to take our state back, and we're going to fight for conservative elected officials.
Yeah, that's true. And I want to add to that. I mean, we're at the point now in Arkansas, the Republican Party is so popular that the primaries are really the new general elections. I mean, do you agree with that?
Absolutely. I think we have to be so careful when we go in there and we vote, just straight R, right down the ballot. Anyone that's going to R, vote for him. That's not always the case. That's not always the best way to do it. We got to make sure that those who are given that gift of the R, who have the Republican name, are worthwhile of it. And so often we'll hear people, I switched parties so I'd win an election in my community. Well, do we want that person running as a Republican? We have to really vet these candidates, get to know them, get to know what they believe. I had a guy come in who wanted to be appointed to a position that I was kind of in charge of here on our quorum court. And I asked him my first question, what is the proper role of government? What do you see? What should the government do? What shouldn't it do? And It's hard for people to answer that question. It's a difficult question. But if they have the right principles and the right values, they can get there. They can get to the right answer. But if people are going to run for office, those are the questions that should be in their head. What are our basic, fundamental principles as a party and as a nation? And I think we, as a Republican Party, as the official side of it, we need to be vetting our candidates so much better than we are now and be out, gaining new candidates who really believe like we do. Yeah. And I think, we can do that. It's a very winnable fight. And it might take primarying a few people here or there to get the job officially done, but it's a long process. And, right now we're just starting it.
Mm-hmm. Last question. So at this event, bringing Hillsdale College to the Ozarks, the 2017 Baxter County Lincoln Day Dinner, do we have a lineup? Is there any other speakers? I'm thinking of like local folks like, Senator Scott Flippo or anybody else that's planning to be there to speak or something. Do we know that yet?
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. Senator Scott Flippo will actually be receiving an award that I'm not allowed to talk about yet. But from a state organization down in Little Rock. So he will be there. Very excited about that. And it'll be a full list of dignitaries and politicians and, a lot of constitutional officers coming from Little Rock up to this event. So if you come, it's going to be a star-spangled event. It should be a blast. And I'll just say again, BaxterGOP.com, and it's going to support a really, really worthwhile cause. And you'll get to have a really once-in-a-lifetime experience to hear from one of the world's leading intellectuals on our founding fathers. What a great experience that would be for you, for grandparents and their grandkids. I know my grandpa's bringing one of his youngest grandsons. So I think it's really an event for the family and an event to help us remember, what the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence really means for us and how it should be shaping who we are as citizens.
Richard Castor, host of The View from Hillsdale and also the chairman of the Baxter County Republicans. We appreciate it, sir. That website again, BaxterGOP.com. Richard, be safe. We'll do it again soon.
Thank you so much.
All righty, folks. The Liberty Machine rolling on. Back here in just a moment.
Good morning. Good morning. Congratulations, you have made it to the Bureau of Carefully Crafted Language, where we strive to offer politicians the very best in ambiguously specific language, the purpose of which is to allow our politician bosses to grow government and keep their constituents in the dark. This yields two beneficial outcomes. First, the government-growing politicians stay in office, and second, we at the Bureau of Carefully Crafted Language get to remain in the shadows and get to keep our jobs. Now, it's time for technocrat training drills. Johnny?
Yes?
A politician wants to use the healthcare system to punish those who have and redistribute their wealth. What is the appropriate language to use in this situation to make an unpopular idea acceptable to the public?
I would emphasize that these ideas would make their healthcare more affordable and make sure the public understands if they already have adequate healthcare, nothing will change for them.
Very good, Johnny. Much progress since last time. Next up, let's have Susie. Susie, your politician has been caught in, dare I say it, a lie.
What kind of a lie?
It doesn't really matter, but in the spirit of the Bureau of Carefully Crafted Language, I will give you a good hypothetical scenario. Dozens of politicians have been thrown out of office for supporting a socialist healthcare program. So the remaining politicians get together and they pass a bill to, quote, end the program, end quote. But they really want to keep it. What should they do, Susie?
May I ask a question for more information?
Certainly.
Has the word lie been used by the political opposition?
Yes.
I know. They should change the name of the program. Maybe use the word works to make the sheeple think it's for working folk. Then they should go on the attack and get the public distracted. I would advise the politician to publicly question why our political dialogue has become so uncivilized and tell them to claim using the word lie, no matter how accurate, is a personal attack on his or her character. And if they admit to any wrongdoing at all, they must replace the word lie with words like misspoke, misstatement, misrepresent, or mislead.
Amazing! Excellent work, Susie. I feel like the student has really become the teacher. You will make a terrific addition to the Bureau of Carefully Crafted Language.
All hands on deck. This is a Bureau of Carefully Crafted Language emergency. Several politicians are scrambling after being exposed by some talk radio host. Let's move it, people. They need our help.
The Bureau of Carefully Crafted Language. You vote 'em in, and we keep 'em in. PHP Parody.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. The phone number, call, text, 870-275-9799 is the telephone number if you would like to contribute to the program, 870-275-9799. So, this is interesting. We have a James Sturch issue in this state. State Representative James Sturch, who's trying to run for Senate District 19. James Sturch single-handedly responsible for killing special election reform that would have ended special elections as we know them. Of course, we know the statistics there are ridiculous. The special election, when they're called tax increases, the chance of a tax increase goes up significantly because you have less voter turnout, and it doesn't reflect the consent of the governed. Now, James Sturch famously walked out doing his Sturch lurch out of the chamber when they did the sound the ballot procedure after he had already voted for the bill, and then he left his seat so the bill would fail. It's not a very nice trick. And so we've got this thing where we're keeping count of all the special elections that are going on in the state of Arkansas that he's at fault for. And so while he is just a state representative from Independence County, and he wants to represent more counties by going to the Senate, his vote, his Sturch lurch, affected much more than just the folks of Independence County. It affects people like in Centeron. In the town of Centeron, Residents are now going to decide tomorrow if they want to extend a sales tax to pay for road improvements, park development, and a new city hall. Quote, this is a continuation of the current sales tax. Alderman Wayne Lowe said, we still need roads and parks. The city hall is maxed out to the gills, very full. There's no room for storage or more people. So I just wanted to tell you, like, when this tax passes, because they all seem to pass, or many of them do, not all, but many of the taxes pass when you look at the long history of special elections. When this passes, we'll be able to chalk up yet another populace in this state that it's going to be overtaxed, because many people are not going to show up because they're going to be out working, and many people probably aren't even aware of the tax. You know what they are aware of, though? They're aware of elections that happen every 2 years. They're aware of general elections. They're even more aware of primaries because they see the campaign signs. But many people are not ever made aware of special elections. And that's the truth of it. And so, basically, you have a minority of people who are going to decide to take money from everyone, of all people. And there's something really, really wrong about that. And we have the Sturch Lurch to thank for that. We have the Sturch Lurch to thank for that. The phone number, call us, text us, let us know. Are facing this special election. Thanks for that catch, listener. Appreciate it, in the Northwest Arkansas area. Also, we'll tell you more about Patreon next, but yeah, we've gotten a couple of subscribers already this hour, so that's good. The phone number again, 870-275-9799. We're going to have more of the Paul Harrell program. One more hour is coming your way next, as the headline we now read, national debt has topped $20 trillion. And I'm glad that's now making headlines, but a lot of people don't talk about the national debt anymore. I, for one, as a new father, I mean, it really does mean a lot more to me, just because you're like, our country's going to live at a current standard of living now, so that future generations can't be as economically free as us. Economic serfdom. We got to take a break. One more hour coming your way next. Don't go anywhere.
Rush, Glenn, Sean, and Paul. This is Jonesboro's 1013 FM News Talk, KBTM.
Paul Harrell, weekdays from 4 to 6. Learn more at paulharrell.com.
State obligations, not local obligations, as is in my suit. The governor has a list in the Appropriation Acts of or the option of funding a list of state needs. Colleges and universities are the notable examples, and other state programs, Medicaid, DHS, other areas that the governor is allowed under the current law to release funds as they're available. That's not the case in the suit that I brought.
Okay.
In the suit that I brought, the legislators individually decide utilizing the planning and development districts as a cover.
Right. So, question would be, the practical reality of the way things were done is that you have legislators, getting credit one way or the other, whether it was the old way of directly doing it or the indirect way using the planning and development districts. Do you foresee, if the governor's now in charge of giving money here or there, maybe a similar result where you might have a headline in the paper that says Representative so-and-so fought really, really hard and got Asa or whoever the governor is to give money to this local area? We could end up with a similar situation. Do you disagree?
in a sense, it's perfectly legitimate, right, and proper for a legislator to advocate for programs in his local district. That's where all 135 members agree or permit it. It's unlike the situation that exists in my suit, where only one person decides. In other words, when the legislature appropriates funds for colleges and universities and gives the governor a list of which ones to fund first, so to speak, I can't complain about that. The Constitution allows that. The Constitution prohibits, on the other hand, the local and special transfers of state funds to anybody.
And so you're saying that the rural services, when this GIF money now goes under the rural services at the discretion of the governor, you're saying that wouldn't be a conflict?
Well, it might not, depending on how the bill is drawn. If it says to rural services for agricultural development programs at an experiment station, nothing wrong with that at all. That's a state state purpose for a division of one of the universities, maybe, or rural services or anybody, as long as it's specified in advance what the money is to be used for. Here, in the lawsuit that I'm involved in today, there is no specification as to how the money is to be used.
Right.
And that subverts, or actually prohibits, it makes it impossible for the funds to be audited, for example.
Yes.
How do you trace the accountability if you don't know where the money's supposed to go?
Yeah, that's a good point.
That's another fatal, I think, feature of the acts that I challenged in this case.
We're talking with former State Representative Mike Wilson. He was in front of the Arkansas Supreme Court today about this lawsuit. Similar cases he's already won. Of course, the legislature takes steps to get around that so they can still continue to, give away taxpayer dollars. And what I do agree with you that it is in violation of the Arkansas Constitution to be able to do this individually. So I got another question for you, if you have the time for it.
I do.
Okay. So in these economic planning and development districts, there is, from my understanding, there's unspent money. And I would like to know do you know how much money? And if you were to say the Supreme Court were to side with you, what would happen to that unspent money?
Well, if the court decides in favor of my position, it could order the refunds of any unspent taxpayers' money, could order refunds to the state. And that's one possibility. The court could also send the case back to the circuit court for the trial court for the same purpose. And it may be necessary to have hearings and see how much money's left and force the planning and development districts to account for any unspent funds. And it may go as far as to require them to return or refund the entire amount. That could really be significant because we're talking, in my case, $20 million statewide. That's a lot of money.
That is a lot of money. So do you know how much unspent money is sitting in some of these places right now?
In the case of Central Arkansas Planning and Development,
the maintenance of a free society is a very difficult and complicated thing, and it requires a self-denying ordinance of the most extreme kind. It requires a willingness to put up with temporary evils on the basis of the subtle and sophisticated understanding that if you step in to do something about them, you not only may make them worse, but you will spread your tentacles and get bad results elsewhere.
I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers. We lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
You're listening to the Paul Harrell Program, brought to you by Conduit Media Group.
Hey, folks, welcome to the program. It is hour number 2, and we sure appreciate you guys listening to the program. The telephone number, if you want to contribute, 870-275-9799, and you have found the intersection of conservative ideas and reality, where we are building a liberty machine. And we can't do it without your help and your support, and we certainly appreciate it. And again, we'll tell you more about how you can help us later in the hour, how you can contribute to the Liberty Machine without just phone calls or text messages. I see Triple R Bail Bonds. Thanks a lot, Sturch Lurch. That's great. Thanks a lot, hashtag Sturch Lurch, hashtag ARPX, hashtag Special Elections. Carbon copy at Paul Harrell 1776. If you want to tweet me or tweet at me, that's the way you do it. At Paul Harrell 1776. What do you say, Joe? They can't hear you. Your mic's not on. Go ahead.
We need to make Sturch Lurch t-shirts.
Sturch Lurch t-shirts.
Brought to you by the Paul Harrell Program.
Would it be possible to zoom in on the video of him leaving, killing special election reform? For sure, for the next 2 years at least. I mean, meaning we're not going to see it until 2018 if we see it again.
We need someone. We just need someone who's good at
2019,
like
2019
caricatures of people.
Yeah,
and draws have a picture of Sturch's face and then have like a really creepy him walking away.
It's funny you say that. It's funny you say we need somebody to do. Well, I may or may not have had a conversation recently with somebody who knows a cartoonist, a political cartoonist, whose rates are reasonable. And
that's what we need to do. We need to have political cartoon T-shirts.
That's a great idea. Yeah. Hey, that's fantastic. Joe for the win, everybody. Joe for the win. Now, that's a great idea. That's great. I love it. I love it. That's fantastic. Political cartoon T-shirts. I think it'd be great. I was thinking of a political cartoon today, and I just thought it was just something. Go ahead. What were you going to? What do you?
For those who donate $25 on Patreon to get a Paul Harrell Program T-shirt, when we get around to making these, you can choose.
Yeah, that's a good idea. That's a really good idea. And we'll talk. Yeah, so Patreon is launched. $5, $10, $25 a month. You get bonus Paul Harrell Program content. Go check it out. Patreon. Go to patreon.com/the PHP, as in Paul Harrell Program. I had somebody the other day said, you can't use PHP. It's programming language. Well, we're a program. So I know it's the PHP. I'm just saying when you call it, we call it the PHP or whatever, PHP is a programming language. We're a radio program, so it's okay. They don't realize that. These tech people that have called me out on Twitter. I know nothing about coding, though. Absolutely nothing whatsoever about coding.
Do we look like programmers to you?
No, I certainly don't. I've seen it done, though, and it makes absolutely no sense.
I had to take a programming class in high school.
Yeah.
Didn't do too well.
Well, Asa Hutchinson, that's his big deal. His big deal is programming. Well, we need more computer programming, and that's going to make things amazing here. I'm not saying it's not the future. I'm just saying you certainly hear a lot about it in the lapdog press. Okay. Let's talk about ignoring Arkansas's financial condition as we finish up here with this Conduit for Action article that we started last hour. If you can throw this back up there, Joe, when you get a chance. One might think a Republican governor would have been more cautious about spending. Specifically, we're talking about a contract that was, we're currently paying $54 million for. Governor wants to pay $74 million for it and switch providers. That's what we're doing. One might think a Republican governor would have been more cautious about spending. Not this governor. By minimizing the importance of the costs of the contract, ACE's administration also minimized the importance of Arkansas's current financial condition. The governor's budget is unsteady, and the governor is on a quest for more taxes to grow government. 1. Volatile budget. The increase built into ACE's budget for fiscal year 2016-2017 was so overly optimistic that late in the fiscal year, the governor had to cut $70 million. In the last few days of the fiscal year, which ended June 20th, he restored most of the cuts, but not all. This, too, emphasizes the volatility of his budget and how the budget is written to spend every available penny. That's what the Revenue Stabilization Act, we have learned on this program. The Revenue Stabilization Act in Arkansas, folks, is touted as something that keeps us from having an unbalanced budget. They say, so we have a balanced budget amendment is what they will call it. But the problem is the way the Revenue Stabilization Act works is that you have your Category A funding, which is the stuff that the money that's going to get funded. That's basically guaranteed. We're going to make sure Category A is funded. And then you have your Category B funds. Category B is not guaranteed, but it's prioritized, and as extra money comes in, after everything in Category A is funded, as extra money comes in, the stuff in Category B then gets funded. Well, the problem is there's always more priorities that are listed in Category B or whatever than get funded. So every year there are things on the budget that are in the lower priority ranks that do not get funded. This ensures a balanced budget, they say, but it also ensures no surplus because everything that comes in is going to go out. That's essentially where we're at right now, and ASA will not curb his spending. ASA won't cut the spending so that we have better results elsewhere. Number 2, new taxes. ACE assigned several new or increased taxes this year, including doubling the special tax on new tires, adding a special tax on mounting used tires, increasing the sales tax on soft drinks and candy, imposing the sales tax on digital downloads such as music, movies, and software, and imposing the income tax on money received as unemployment compensation. Number 3, a quest for more taxes. ACE still wants major tax increases, including a new internet sales tax and a tax increase on gasoline and diesel fuel. In moving forward with this contract for $20 million more than what we're getting the service for now, ASA was asserting the power of the executive branch. Keep in mind, the Legislative Council objected to it, and he went ahead and did it anyway. Legally, he can do that. The power of the executive branch is to execute the laws versus the legislative branch's authority to make laws. The basis of this position is the separation of powers clause found in Article 4 of the Arkansas Constitution. Yet, even Democrat Senator Joyce Elliott expressed frustration with the governor ignoring the legislature to spend more money. I don't know. I mean, that's kind of written like, yet, in a surprise move, because, see, ACE is actually doing a lot of what the Democrats agree with. Senator Joyce Elliott, Democrat Little Rock, said no vendor should operate under the notion that this body is obligated to say yes. I really object to the notion that because we have done this, and this, we have to say yes. Otherwise, why don't we just not meet? Because the whole purpose is for us to have a voice. I don't think it's right to suggest that once it gets here, it's a done deal, meaning rubber stamp, meaning the Arkansas Legislative Council is just a formality. See, there are some rumblings among Republicans who don't trust the leadership anymore. That's why you have some people freaking out trying to score scorecards. I mean, that's why Jim Hendren's trying to score the scorecards, because there's a lot of people who are who follow the leadership and they recognize that what they've done, pledging undying loyalty and fealty to Asa and Jim Hendren, have gotten them bad scores. And they don't trust this this idea that there's armor that's protecting them and that there's no way to defeat this machine. That everybody, they're not saying, well, I don't think we're as high up on the horse as we thought we were. I don't think we're as invincible from criticism as we thought we were from consequences. And so now they're starting to doubt, ladies and gentlemen, the leadership. They're starting to not trust them. The trust gap that Jason Rapert spoke of in the special session, as did Senator Alan Clark in the special session, that was a whole deal where they said, there's a trust gap here, essentially referring to past results, past issues. And it's kind of growing, and now you don't trust the governor on this, that, or the other, this new stuff. It had to do with moving stuff into a long-term reserve fund to protect our credit rating. They said it was to increase our credit rating. In reality, it was to protect our credit rating because we're in dire financial straits, and nobody wants to talk about that. We've got a governor that spends way too much money. But that's why they're doing things like this. They're freaking out, and they're saying, oh, my gosh, we've got to rally the troops. We've got to keep people in line, and to do that, the Senate Majority Leader is going to ask for the funds, which he already has, ask for the donations and funds of private groups. He wants to know who the donors are. So I guess I don't know. And then he's like, no, I'm going to score the scorecards. And folks, nobody's going to care. The only people that are going to care about scoring the scorecards are the people underneath him. And this is Senator Hendren, Conduit for Action says Commodore Hendren, trying to right this ship, and he's going to send all of the lackeys, all of the followers, his critique to make them feel better about themselves and not doubt his leadership and other people's leadership as much. That's all the scorecard of scorecards is. If you ask the average person on the street what they would think of a sitting elected official who is in power, who's having to who's creating laws that we're all having to live under, and then you have independent groups that score based on voting records, and you tell them, and so now he's going to come out and score the scorecards? It's hilarious. He has no idea how that sounds to the average person. But inside the bubble, they all just want to reassure themselves that everything's fine. You didn't vote liberal. You didn't vote liberal on social issues. You didn't vote liberal on economic issues. Don't listen to those people. The fact is, this brand of republicanism could not survive in Tennessee, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia. Wouldn't survive. We are being lied to. Generally, we are being deceived and lied to. They are cloaked in a veil of conservatism, but underneath, they're as liberal as Chuck Schumer. Joe, go ahead.
I imagine, like when you said that everything's fine, I imagined as soon as you said it, Han Solo from Episode 4, where they're about to get caught. He goes, everything's fine. It's all right here. Situation normal. That's how.
How are you?
How are you?
After they shoot the stormtroopers, everything's fine. Everything's fine.
They say situation
what was
normal.
that noise?
Situation normal. How are you?
Yeah. How are you? Yeah, that's great.
That's Jim Hendren.
Yeah.
Everything's fine. Everything's all right here. Situation normal. How are you? Trying to divert the question, I see.
Oh man, that's good. We need to find that clip. So Conduit for Action sees the constitutional issue differently than ASA. The problem is not the legislature trying to overstep its powers. The problem is this governor can't be trusted with as much discretion as the legislature has allowed previous governors. Wow. That is a huge charge from CFA there. The legislature needs to exercise its constitutional powers to rein in this tax and spend governor. I mean, that's a bold statement. I mean, that to me, you think about BB, you know? You think about BB. The problem is not the legislature trying to overstep its powers. The problem is this particular governor that can't be trusted with as much discretion as previous governors like BB or like Huckabee. Number one, budget restrictions. The legislature has the power to pass the state budget, but for the most part, the legislature has trusted governors and has given the executive branch broad discretion on how to spend money. The legislature claimed it is a full-time legislature when it argued for a huge salary increase for legislators in 2015. then the legislature should act like the full-time legislature by working all year to prepare annual budgets and to include many budget limitations necessary because the current governor is unwilling to limit spending. Number 2, there's a new sheriff in town, known as Amendment 92, which was adopted by the people in 2014. The new sheriff in town is the legislature's authority to veto state agency rules through committee action. It is no stretch for the legislature to require purchasing formulas, such as the one used here, to be submitted for approval or disapproval by the legislature. The Republican majority legislature needs to use this power as necessary to stop ACE's spending spree, but that would require you can't be a lapdog legislature anymore, folks. This new power could have been used to shut down ACE's formula for awarding contracts before he ever thought of using it as an excuse to burn more state money. Spending problem or revenue problem or something else, when ASA had to cut the state budget a few months ago, he described the problem as a revenue problem. He said it's a miss on revenue and not a miss on spending. Senator Brian King disagreed. Hutchinson has spent too much money, he said, and should cut expenses for the state's Medicaid program. People always say there's a revenue shortfall instead of a spending problem when they get into financial trouble. Instead of calling it a revenue problem or a spending problem, perhaps the most accurate description is we have an ASA problem. Oh, and I would have replaced the S with a $sign there in the middle of his name. Have you contacted your state senator and state representative to ask them to rein in ASA spending? That's a good question. Folks, we do have to take a break, but not before we let you hear this.
We gotta find out which cell this princess of yours is in. Here it is, 2187. You go and get her. I'll hold him here.
I can't.
Everything's under control. Situation normal.
What happened?
Had a slight weapons malfunction, but everything's perfectly all right now. We're fine. We're all fine here now. Thank you. How are you?
Stop. That's great. That's great. We're all fine now here. That kind of sounds like Senator Hendry.
It's not a weapons malfunction. It's a budgetary malfunction.
Yeah, it's a budgetary, and you've been exposed, and now everybody's like, oh, no. And that call that he gets is from, the other lackeys that are just kind of like, hey, what's going on here? We're getting bad scores on scorecards, and we're telling everybody we're conservative, but there's these other people saying we're not. Well, it's just your voting record. It's just how you voted. No. Scorecard of scorecards. That's the ticket. Back in a minute. We got to go.
iTex is your first choice for cost-effective IT services. Protecting your business means protecting your data. Are you tired of unpredictable and expensive spikes in IT spending? Using iTex will prevent downtime and loss of employee productivity and do it all with an affordable, predictable budget. iTex is the premier managed service provider for small and medium businesses. They help their clients put IT to work to earn your business more money, and you should contact them today for a free consultation. 870-336-9778. That's 870-336-9778 or itexusa.com.
This is State Representative Dan Sullivan with a Liberty Moment. If all men are created equal, that's final. If they are endowed by their Creator with inalienable rights, that's final. If governments derive their just powers from the consent of the governed, that's final. No advance, no progress can be made beyond these propositions. If anyone wishes to deny their truth or their soundness, the only direction in which he can proceed historically is not forward but backward, toward the time when there was no equality, no rights of the individual, and no rule by the people.
Paid for by Sullivan for Arkansas.
Buy, sell, and trade at Triple R Pawn in Ash Flat. Firearms, computers, sporting goods, musical instruments, tools, jewelry, and everything else you can think of. It's all at Triple R Pawn at the Light in Ash Flat. Gun enthusiasts, log on now to triplrpawn.com and browse their amazing inventory. That's triplrpawn.com. You can also call them at 870-994-PAWN. That's 870-994-7296. Let the great team at Triple R Pawn help you find what you're looking for. That's Triple R Pawn at the Light in Ash Flat, triplrpawn.com, or call 870-994-PAWN.
Do you need to advertise your business product or service, but not sure what the best choice is? Folks, allow me to introduce you to talk radio. You're listening to it right now. Talk radio is one of the most unique mediums in all of advertising because it actually works. It gets the information you want to the people you want to get it to. And by the way, those people are educated, well-informed decision makers of their household, and most of them have disposable income. If this is a target audience for your business, then you have to consider advertising on my show, The Paul Harrell Program. We have options for most any budget and can provide you with exciting opportunities to grow your business. We can put your message across the state, or we can help you locally. Call 870-275-9755 if you have any questions. That's 870-275-9755, or visit my website, paulharrell.com, and click on Advertise.
Watch Paul live at paulharrell.com. It's free and available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, because the Liberty Machine never sleeps.
All right, folks. 870-275-9799. That article, No Spending Problem, Asa burns through millions picking highest bidder. So as the Patreon donations have come in, this broadcast, I'm encouraged by it, and I just want to let you know, I mean, if you want to help support us and you want to get extra content outside of what you're getting now. I mean, right now, folks, we have the live stream that goes up at paulharrell.com, Facebook Live, YouTube. That's all archived. That's all free. I mean, you can listen to this program on the terrestrial radio stations, or you can watch us do the program live and go back and get it anytime, podcast, video archives, whatever you want. And I'm happy to do that because I want to get as much content as we can out there. But it's right now we're in the business of education. And the fact of the matter is, one of the reasons that we're in this business, we're in the place that we are right now as conservatives, and specifically in Arkansas in a lot of ways. As a country, if you're a business owner and you're a liberal, you're a progressive, and you really believe, you will support liberal causes all day long, and you will be above criticism. That's the fact. That's the fact of the matter. If you're a conservative businesses have such a whole problem. They have a problem supporting public conservative causes, especially nowadays. They're terrified of retribution, and it's because of that we're in the position that we're in a lot of ways. As individuals, though, they just want to support the truth, and that's what we're doing. People are frustrated. Well, I have a strategy. It's what I do every day. As part of that strategy, I'd like for you to join us. You can become a Liberty Machine contractor, a Paul Harrell program producer, or a Conduit Media insider. And you won't have to put up with any personal grief, maybe the way a business owner would do. It's patreon.com/thephp.
Paul Harrell, weekdays from 4 to 6. Learn more at paulharrell.com.
There is, from my understanding, there's unspent money. And I would like to know how much, do you know how much money? And if you were to say the Supreme Court were to side with you, what would happen to that unspent money?
Well, if the court decides in favor of my position, it could order the refunds of any unspent taxpayers' money, could order refunds to the state. And that's one possibility. The court could also send the case back to circuit court for the trial court for the same purpose. And it may be necessary to have hearings and see how much money's left and force the planning and development districts to account for any unspent funds. And it may go as far as to require them to return or refund the entire amount. That really be significant because we're talking, in my case, $20 million statewide. That's a lot of money.
That is a lot of money. So do you know how much unspent money is sitting in some of these places right now?
In the case of Central Arkansas Planning and Development District, the one that I sued, the one that applies to me where I live, there was about $2.5 million unspent at the time the suit was filed. And whether they have tried to utilize any of that money or not, I don't know.
Okay. All right.
I don't know yet. Underline it.
So what happens next? When can we expect a decision from the Arkansas Supreme Court?
Now, this is just a real subjective observation, but from this morning's arguments, it seemed to me that the court was thoroughly familiar with the facts of the case, which suggests that a decision by the court may not be very far off. I would guess a matter of weeks or maybe even less. I don't think it'll be very long.
Okay. All right. Former State Representative Mike Wilson, we appreciate you coming on. I also appreciate your commitment to the rule of law and working hard in this lawsuit. I think it's really going to be good for the people of Arkansas, and so we can actually follow the law, control where our tax dollars are going.
That's our intention, Paul, and thank you for your public service.
Hey, I appreciate it. Thank you, sir. Be safe, okay?
You bet. Thank you.
All right, folks, we're going to take a break. Back in just a moment.
You're listening to the intersection of conservative ideas and reality, the Paul Harrell Program.
Here we are. Welcome back. Thanks so much for being with us. The state of Arkansas. Well, we've talked a little bit about government incompetence, corruption. Do you know that we interviewed State Representative Austin McCullum a couple of weeks ago about a piece of legislation that had to do with IT, had to do with consolidating information from all the different executive bureaucracies into a central hub with the same formats, the same ways of submitting information or inputting information. And this, I guess, hub would be accessible to politicians and other things, be able to really get the hard data on a lot of things. And I thought of him when I saw the story about how there was a state official who has been earning 2 salaries according to an audit that has been conducted. And I thought about this, and nobody knew. The government didn't know that it was, and that's outside of what's supposed to happen. You're not supposed to earn 2 salaries as a state employee. I mean, I think we can all agree on the left and the right that that doesn't need to happen outside of the rules. And I'm just wondering, would this information have been knowable in this new system that did get passed by State Representative Austin McCullum? It has to do with the Arkansas Community Corrections Chief Deputy Director. The Arkansas Community Corrections Chief Deputy Director got $50,500 from a nonprofit group And he was getting this at the same time he received a 6-figure state salary. You say, well, it's just a nonprofit group, just a consulting fee, I'm sure. No. I have no idea what he did. I'm sure he may have done the work. The man's name is Kevin Murphy. He worked an average of 30 hours a week as executive director of the Arkansas Association for Correctional Employees Trust. So that's the issue here, is it is a nonprofit, but it's a nonprofit that's associated with the Arkansas Association of Correctional Employees Trust Fund. So essentially, being affiliated with his other job, Arkansas Community Corrections Chief Deputy, and making money on the side from the state or from the trust fund, if you will, which how is that funded? Indirectly through us. And it says here, the legislative auditor, the deputy legislative auditor, John Moore, discovered this based on the association's 2015 IRS 990 form. Okay? The IRS 990 form. Moore's salary as Community Correction Chief Deputy Director is $108,100. So a nice $50,000 bonus is pretty good. Now, look, he may very well be doing great work at the trust fund and great work, right? I'm not trying to disparage the man's character. I honestly don't want to do that. My question is, nobody knew this was happening when state law prohibits state agency employees from receiving any compensation for performing the duties and responsibility of their position from sources other than their government employment. Community Correction Director Sheila Sharp defended Murphy's part-time work for the association. She said that Murphy's position with the association was disclosed and approved when he was hired by the agency in 2013 and reviewed by the State Board of Correction and the office of then-Governor Mike Beebe, a Democrat. It goes on to write, Republican Governor Asa Hutchinson's office also was apprised of the arrangement, she said. So everything's good here because they got permission slips from Mommy. And again, so I guess the state did know. I have the story wrong. It seems like the governor's office knew. It seems like the people at the Community Corrections bureaucracy knew. Sheila Sharp, she's the director there. He's the deputy director. It seems like everybody in the government knew, but the legislature. So that's where Austin McCullum's system would hopefully come into effect, play consolidating this information. Big job, though. Really big job when you think about it. Let's see here. Joe, let me ask you something. Transitioning out of this, because it is the 16th anniversary of September 11th, 2001. And it is, it's a day where people, I saw somebody on Facebook say, I cry every September 11th. I saw somebody on Facebook say that. So I just curious. I know you're young, but you were alive when it happened. How old were you?
Yeah, I was 7. I was in the 2nd grade.
I'm curious. I don't think we might have talked about this last year. I'm not sure. But what were your thoughts being at 7? You don't remember specifically where you were when it happened, do you?
No. Then again, my memory when I was a kid, it wasn't very good. I don't remember a lot of things that happened. I remember big, things that happened to me, traumas that happened to me personally. But they're just major events I don't remember happening. So odds are I was at my dad's office.
Okay, not in school then.
I was not at school, most likely. I had strep a lot when I was in 2nd grade, a lot. So I was at my dad's office frequently. Odds are I was sleeping in a conference room because no one ever used it.
Did you get your tonsils removed?
No, I still have them.
Wow. So how many days did you miss that 2nd grade year?
I don't even know.
What? Is it more than 40? You missed more than 40 days of school?
I probably missed at least 30 at minimum.
Wow, that's a lot of days to be sick.
Yeah, because I had strep 7 times in the process of a year.
And you didn't get your tonsils removed?
No. My doctor said that if I got it one more time that year, then I would have to get it removed. Like, it was kind of like,
And that 7th time, it's just like, we'll try one more round of antibiotics.
Yeah, and the funniest thing in the world is I didn't get strep again until I was a freshman in college.
Wow.
So 12 years worth of time passed before I got strep again.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah.
That is a lot. That's a lot. I mean, I know that's a good span, but still.
Yeah.
I can't believe they didn't take your tonsils out.
Yeah, I still have them to this day.
Well, good for you. I understand if you get them taken out when you're older,
it hurts.
It's like the worst pain you can imagine.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know about the worst pain you can imagine, but I mean, they say it's awful.
Yeah, it's pretty miserable apparently. But no, I don't remember much. Again,
okay, what do you don't remember where you were? That's fine.
Yeah.
But where? I mean, what? Obviously, you found out at some point what had happened on September 11th, 16 years ago.
Yeah.
So, what were your thoughts? What were adults doing around you? Were they weeping uncontrollably? Were they going to the gas station to try to get gas? And what happened? What do you remember?
Odds are my mom.
So you don't actually have any memory.
I have no memory. I'm going pure off speculation.
So when did you find out about September 11th?
Oh, definitely that day. Definitely that day. But again, I don't have.
And how old are you?
I'm 23.
You're 23.
Yeah.
So there you go. I wanted to just put that out there. You're 23 years old, okay, and you don't really have any. Now that's not saying all 7-year-olds don't. Of course they do.
No, but I will say my personal memory is awful.
Okay, yeah, but still, there's probably a lot of people. This is only going to get worse, though. Well, obviously, as time goes on,
the craziest thing
it's going to get worse.
The craziest thing for me is my little sister doesn't know about.
And how
this.
old is she?
She's 7, or no, excuse me, 10. I was thinking 7. She was born in 2007. She's 10.
Okay.
She
Yeah.
was not alive then.
Yeah,
which
and that is
blows
wild.
My mind.
That is wild. This was an event that changed the world in so many ways. It launches wars that we're still fighting today, which is very frustrating. And you have 3,000 American countrymen that died, and I just remember I was in high school. I guess I was at I guess I was in the 10th grade, and I was in my first period class, and somebody came in and said that a plane had crashed, and this is a weird memory, but the plane had crashed into the World Trade Center, and then the World Trade Center had fallen on the Pentagon, and this girl that came in here and ran in there and said that was not a very credible courier of information. And she came in a panic, and actually, I mean, we couldn't help but laugh at her because even then, as politically illiterate as I am now, I knew that the Pentagon and the World Trade Center were in 2 different locations. So we move on from there, and this is my memory of what happened. What's weird is I don't think the buildings had come down yet at that time, which is, I don't know if that was it was just, so it was very strange. There's just a lot of information going on. And then, of course, you go to your next class, and everybody is watching the television, and then I either saw the first or the second building. I'm going to go ahead and say it was the second building because of what she had said. We saw the second building come down live. And as a 10th grader, 16 years old, I'm sitting there thinking, I just watched in real time thousands of people die on live TV. You know what I mean? Just never experienced anything like that. And everybody was just a zombie the rest of the day. And I did wait in the gas lines after school at the instruction of my parents, and you just got this feeling that something, it's just such an uneasy fear. I mean, there was real fear from my standpoint, just among everybody. And you think to yourself, you just knew, wow, this is a big moment in history. And I remember hearing about my dad telling me about where he was when John F. Kennedy was shot, and how he was walking up the steps of his high school when John Kennedy was shot, and the principal or somebody, I think just was running down the hall screaming, just hysterically screaming, the president's been shot, the president's been shot, the president's been shot. And I imagine that's got to be, that's got to be a very similar situation where you just kind of like, this is a big deal. There's not going to be another event like this in my lifetime. Well, I hope. Gosh, I hope. That's a problem. We don't have any guarantee of that at this point. So it's pretty weird. I mean, 16 years. I can't believe it's been that long. And if you'd have told me 16 years ago that I'd be the host of a talk radio program, you would have blown my mind. I would have had I would have had literally, my response might have been, what's talk radio again? What's talk radio again? I mean, like, oh, okay. Because I did grow up listening to Rush, but I don't even know if, I'm listening to some guy riding around with my parents. Here's some guy on the radio, that they're listening to, and I don't really know. Oh, this is called talk. This is the industry of talk radio. Okay.
Okay, so two things.
Okay.
First, for me as a 7-year-old, thinking back on how I was as a kid, the things I do remember, odds are I probably wouldn't have, if someone said, oh, this had happened, I probably wouldn't have given an emotional response because I wouldn't have understood the gravity of what that was.
Mm-hmm.
And two, one thing I do remember vividly, because it wasn't that long ago, it was the 10-year anniversary, what I was doing on the 10-year anniversary of 9/11. We actually got dragged out of school, everyone was like, hey, we're going from here to here, and I was at Nettleton. We went from Nettleton, and a couple other schools joined us, and we went to Central Baptist Church, and we had a memorial service. First time ever being in a Baptist church.
Really?
Yeah, it's the first time ever. I was Catholic up to that point, Paul.
You were Catholic up to that point.
Yeah.
So you're saying a memorial service made you switch denominations?
No, that's not what. That's not.
Okay.
No, that was.
It started you on the path of switching denominations.
That was early senior year.
Can we say that it started you on the path to switching denominations? Maybe if it's the first time you were ever in a, was that the first time you were ever in a evangelical church? Just leave the Baptist or the out of it. I mean, just evangelical. Period. You're in that church.
I was in a Methodist church once. I went with a friend of mine after I slept over at his house.
So now we're gonna have to get into what kind of a Methodist church? Well, we're going to stop.
I don't remember.
We're going to stop right
I was
now.
5 or 6.
I do not want the text messages. Let me tell you, I don't want them. The telephone number, call us, text is 870-275-9799. Our good friends at Triple R Bail Bonds, they tweet that they want 20 Sturch Lurch T-shirts. After we talked about them.
We need to get on that, Paul.
We need to get on that. We need to get a political cartoon of James Sturch lurching out of the chamber. That'd be a good one, too.
Well, out of the Capitol building.
Yeah.
Have the Marble Palace and have him lurching out, and then a big sign that says
we got a text. Palace. Somebody wants to know if at this evangelical church that you went to, was there any snake handling going on? None of that? Not that kind. Okay. All right, folks. 870-275-9799. Liberty Machine rolls on back in a minute.
This is ASA News, The Parrot. With breaking news from the Capitol in Little Rock. I'm Bob Maloney. There are reports circling around from politicians who are in the know, and the same phrase keeps being used. That phrase is new revenue generation. Let's go to our reporter on the ground from the Capitol, Haley Hogwash. Haley?
Thanks, Bob. Yes, it seems the more politicians I talk to, the more I hear the phrase new revenue generation. We're trying to figure out exactly what that means, but you can rest assured it will be good for the people of Arkansas.
Haley, it certainly sounds like something good. I like how the phrase uses the word generation. That makes me think this has got to be doing something positive for our children in the future. Haley?
Yes, Bob, some new developments. I've just been speaking to some people who are here and are not politicians, and they tell me the phrase new revenue generation is actually code for a new tax.
Oh, my. Well, if this is true, Haley, That would add to a growing list of new taxes that have barely made any headlines at all, so it's best not to discuss them here on ASA News, the Parrot.
Yes, Bob, I know it's sure to make government officials angry that their phrasing of the new revenue generation has been changed by the people and called a tax increase.
I would expect an announcement from Mother Government soon to set the record straight. What is the new tax? Revenue generation, Haley?
Well, this new tax, a new revenue generation would add to a growing list. First, there was a revenue generation on movies, books, and songs that people download using the internet. And next, there was the tax increase. I'm sorry, Bob, the new revenue generation on all purchases made using the internet. And now I'm told this new revenue generation is a tax on the people's patience.
I realize the people don't like it, Haley, but specifically, what is the new tax? Revenue generation.
No, Bob, I'm telling you, according to the activists here at the Capitol who have gathered and are listening to some radio broadcast, the revenue generation is literally taxing the patience of the people of Arkansas. I'm told the less patience you have with the government,
better not tax our patience.
The more they will tax your patience and the more money you will owe at a later date. I'm also told the collection method on taxing your patience will be decided in a newly formed multicolored ribbon task force.
How taxing.
PHP Parody.
All right, we are winding things down here on this Monday. Thank you so much for being with us. I haven't even looked, but I already know it's true. Because it's September 11th, the anniversary, I see this headline here that Donald Trump, President Trump, and First Lady lead moment of silence on the 9/11 anniversary. But whatever it is he did, he's going to be criticized for it. You know what I'm saying? I don't even have to go look at the headlines. I just know they're out there. There's going to be something really, really bad. He
didn't bow his head deep enough.
Donald Trump wore loafers instead of regular tie-up dress shoes.
Or he didn't bow his head low enough during the moment of silence. He didn't close his eyes.
Wow.
How dare he?
In other news, Alabama poll, Roy Moore, who does not have the backing of the Republican establishment in the state of Alabama, is now maintaining a solid majority support, double-digit lead over Luther Strange. This is yet another poll that's come out, and his lead is back up to 15%. Now, look, I have it on good authority. Mitch McConnell wants to drop as many, 10, 20? It's $20 million trying to defeat Roy Moore and protect Luther Strange, who was appointed to that position. And, the White House has really backed off support of Strange. Last I checked, although since we're such a state-focused show, we don't always we don't focus on the national stuff as much, and so that means a lot of this stuff is new to me. Honestly, it's a lot of work trying to keep up with everything that goes on here. McConnell's attacks endanger a safe GOP seat. I wonder what that's talking about. Hang on, let me read this one, because there was some talk of trying to take this away from Roy Moore by getting Democrats to vote for the Rhino Republican. Another poll shows Judge Roy Moore has a 14-point lead in Alabama Senate runoff, but McConnell's attacks endanger the safe GOP seat. An Emerson College poll released on Monday shows that Judge Roy Moore is leading incumbent Senator Luther Strange. It's a fourth in a series of polls conducted since the August primary. Breitbart News reports Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, his well-financed paid media attacks on Moore, however, are putting the safe Republican seat in jeopardy for the December general election. Moore polled at 40%, while Strange was at 26%. 34% of voters were undecided, and the survey had a margin of error of 5.2 percentage points. Voters in Alabama gave President Trump a 52% job approval and 36% disapproval, but the popularity is not transferred to his endorsed candidate Strange. So basically, if you read this, I can summarize it for you. The question that they want to know is, would Mitch McConnell rather there be a Democrat in Roy Moore's place? And unfortunately, folks, the answer seems to be, yeah, he'd much rather have a I mean, it just, look, they don't. I know it's a primary. Look, I get it. Everybody picks sides in a primary. I get it. But, I mean, if we're honest about it, does Mitch McConnell want a yes man? Of course he does. Does Asa? Of course he does. That's why Jake Files hasn't resigned yet. Jake Files hasn't resigned yet because either A, needs the money, or it is the strategy that I've been predicting. They don't want a special election. Asa Hutchinson wants to play Arkansas Game of Thrones, and he wants Matt Pitt, state representative, to be able to walk in. And he knows that Matt Pitt won't be able to run in a special election because he's already a state representative. A state representative, by the way, who wanted to set up a pilot program so the government could track how many miles your odometer increases in a year and then tax you based on that. Go ahead, Joe.
Asa wants a yes man or no man.
That's right. A yes man or no, so he wants a yes man or no man at all.
Exactly.
That's what you're saying.
Yes.
He wants a yes man or no man at all. Well, that's very chauvinistic of you. You have not included the women at all. There can be women. There are women politicians. We have plenty. We have many of them.
Both of them are chauvinists together, Paul.
Why? I didn't say what you said.
Well, what you said was he wants a yes man.
I did say that, didn't I?
Only...
Touche, Joe. Touche.
I guess we're at an impasse.
I guess we are. What else? I think I've had a good time this Monday. A lot of times you got to shake the dust off, you know. That didn't happen this time. I don't know. I'm not really sure why. Coming up tomorrow on the program, we're going to be talking with David Crow. The Arkansas Tea Party Alliance is this weekend. The Arkansas Tea Party Alliance is this weekend, this Saturday. Okay, go to facebook.com/Paul Talk Show. That's facebook.com/Paul Talk Show to get your tickets and details. This Saturday, Arkansas Tea Party Alliance 3rd Annual Liberty Does It Matter Convention. Of course, liberty matters. And you need to go and you need to meet and get and just with this make as many connections as you can about those living in government. I'm going to be there, and also we're going to have a really special treat. We're going to have the impression of the session video for you guys there. We're going to debut it, and then we're going to give people copies in exchange for monetary support. And you guys need to certainly check it out. Okay. Facebook.com/Paul Talk Show. If you don't have to be a Tea Party member to attend, if you're just interested in the things we talk about, it'd be a great day Saturday down at the Doubletree. Okay? All right. Buy our Liberty Machine t-shirts or go to Patreon. Patreon.com/thePHP. And we got 3 levels for you right now. Extra content and extra features. If you go to patreon.com/thePHP. Thank you for watching. And as always, this broadcast is available for free. PaulHarrell.com, Facebook, and YouTube. Be safe, Arkansas.